I'm a master student from National Taiwan University. And the topic of my presentation today is the displacement restraint mechanism of seismic isolation buildings. So, what is the displacement restraint mechanism? As you can see, there are two figures on this slide. The left-hand side is the isolated structure with FPB, friction pendulum bearings. On the right-hand side is isolated structure with displacement restraint system. And as we know, isolated structure has a long period condition, which ranges from 2 seconds to 5 seconds. And when a near-force earthquake hits, it may cause the larger displacement response of our structure and may cause the structure collapse. So there is a small animation like this. So we come up with an idea that we design a displacement restraint mechanism to decrease the displacement response of our structure and make the structure safer. And this is my outline today. First will be my introduction, and the second one is isolated example structure, and the third will be available design range, and the last one is my conclusion. About displacement restraint mechanism, what it is, we wish it is built by a spring and a damper, and where it locates. We wish it locates on the same floor where the isolation system locates. And why do we need it? Because since earthquakes are unpredictable, isolated structures may have a chance of collapsing. And how do we design it? We need 3 design parameters and the proper design procedure. And after that, the design range is up 10. And there is a small figure here. It is the TMD displacement restraint system. The TMD is located in the Taipei 101 building in Taiwan. And this is my mathematical model. The M is represented as the isolated structure's mass, and the K is structure's thickness, and C is the damping coefficient. And the K1 here is represented as displacement restraint system's stiffness, and the C1 is system's damping coefficient. And there are 3 important parameters here. The first is dA, isolated structure's allowable displacement, and the du is structure's ultimate displacement, and the dN is the trigger distance. The trigger distance means that when the displacement response of our structure is bigger than dN, it will activate the displacement restraint mechanism. And this is the equation of motion of my model. And I assume it is a single degree of freedom and is an equivalent linear system. And there are 3 important design parameters and 2 design targets. The first parameter is alpha 1, which is stiffness ratio, and is equal to K1 divided by K. And the second one is alpha 2, which is damping coefficient ratio, and is equal to C1 divided by C. And the last one is dN, the trigger distance. What about the 2 design targets? The first is du, ultimate displacement of isolation system. And the second one is AU, which is ultimate acceleration of structure. So let's talk about my isolated example structure. This is the isolated example structure before retrofit by isolation system. And there are some information about this example structure. And this is the isolated example structure before retrofit by FPB. And on the left-hand side, there are 3 numbers. The first is du, ultimate displacement, as I said before. And here, we assume it is equal to 50 centimeters. And the equivalent damping ratio and the damping coefficient, damping ratio, and the equivalent period are shown here. And on the right-hand side is the acceleration spectrum and the displacement spectrum by the 0206 falling earthquake, and the PGA is equal to 199.2 Gale. As you can see, the maximum acceleration of our structure is equal to 200.1 Gale, and our maximum displacement is equal to 53.98 centimeters, and is bigger than 50 centimeters. Therefore, we need to design the displacement restraint mechanism. And as our simulation result shows that the displacement response really decreased due to our impact. However, the acceleration will increase due to impact. And what about the 2 design targets? The first displacement response, we assume it is 50 centimeters. and the maximum displacement response need to less than 50 centimeters, and the acceleration we need to less than 350 Gauss. And this number is determined by the shear demand, which is V divided by W. V is the shear capacity of our isolated example structure by doing the pushover analysis, and the W is the isolated example structure weight. So the most important thing is how do we decide alpha 1 and alpha 2? And alpha 1 is, like I said before, is K1 divided by K, stiffness ratio. And alpha 2 is C1 divided by C, damping coefficient ratio. And if we discuss alpha 1 and alpha 2 separately, it means that we discuss the spring and the damper separately. And as the simulation result shows that when alpha 1 is bigger, the displacement will decrease. However, the acceleration will increase. So as alpha 2, which means that when alpha 1 is bigger, the displacement will fall into the available range, which is the blue line here. And the acceleration will fall into the unavailable range, which is the red line here. So as alpha 2. And what about the combinations of alpha 1 and alpha 2? The combinations of alpha 1 and alpha 2 can give us the final available design range. And this is the simulation result. There are 3D figures and contour figures as you can see on this slide. The left-hand side is displacement response. On the right-hand side is acceleration response. And the blue color means the available range, and the green to yellow color means the unavailable range. So as the acceleration. And this is the normalized contour figure. The left-hand side is also the displacement response. The right-hand side is acceleration. So this slide is normalized displacement and acceleration response, and the yellow color means the available range. And when we combine these two figures together, it will come up with a small figure here. And this is the final available range, which combines two displacement response and acceleration. So we randomly choose 0.22 as our design parameters. And by these two parameters, we can calculate our K1, which is displacement restraint system thickness, and C1, the restraint system damping coefficient. And the number is here. So this is the final available design range, which satisfies two design targets, which is the maximum displacement of our isolation system is less than 50 centimeters, and the maximum of our acceleration is less than 350 Gauss. And as you can see, the left-hand side is a displacement response, and the red line means the original response of our structure, and the maximum response is 54 centimeters and is bigger than 50 centimeters. After our displacement restraint system, the simulation shows that our maximum displacement response decreased into 47.2 centimeters. And what about acceleration? The acceleration is increased from 200.1 Gauss to 310.6 Gauss, but it's also less than 350 Gauss. So the both design targets are all satisfied. So we can say this is a successful design. The last one will be my conclusion. The first is this displacement restraint mechanism really works while its parameters are properly designed. And the second one is casualties caused by the near-force earthquake could be effectively averted by this restraint mechanism. And the last one is this mechanism designed by nonlinear systems should be more realistic and more reasonable. However, this topic could be further discussed in the future. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So I'd like to invite the questions or comments from the audience.
It's very interesting. I want to know what type of model you are using to model the restrainer. Linear model, the linear stiffness, is it?
Yeah, I assume it is a linear system, but however, the damper should be bilinear.
Another question is, from my understanding, in the real situation, if we want to use a restrainer,
yeah,
the collision will always take place. Collision, the impact force, that will cause a very big force response in the actual situations if the strong earthquake attacks the structure. So, did you consider that effect?
You mean the?
I mean, in real situation, when the structure before the structure touch the restrainer, there will be an initial velocity. Due to the initial velocity, the impacting force will be very, very large when these two structures.
But in my thesis, I just consider that when the force here, I just consider the force when the displacement is less than dm, I assume it is zero. So I may not consider the initial velocity angular force and the bigger force you said. I just assume that when the distance is bigger than dm, and you will be the stiffness, the damping force and the spring force.
Hey, is there any question? Okay.
I think the force is consistent. Because this one is stable. So the impact force is included in the
I didn't find this effect in the high distance.
That should be a jungle.
Yeah.
For example.
Okay. Do you have any other questions? Look, I have one question. You mainly discussed on the frontier, in this case, damping coefficient and stiffness. But I think that the triggering distance like dm can be an effective parameter to control the overall response. Have you checked how dm influences the overall response?
Yeah, but in this presentation, I just assume dm. I just assume du to be 50 centimeters, and the dm is I will further discuss in my thesis project in this presentation. I just assume.
Okay. Any issues I'd like to talk to you hear your presentation. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation.